Well, one of my favorite things to do while I'm in Arizona is to take a ride up to Clarkdale and ride the Verde Valley Railway. This little video I took with my GoPro, I had just gotten a 3-axis gimbal for it, so I was testing to see how much it stabled the actual motion of the video. I was pretty pleased with it. This is our buddy Shu here getting ready to take our tickets. He was our commentator and naturalist. I'll tell you a little bit more about the train as we get aboard here. I recommend that you get what they call the first class ticket. It's a few dollars more, but you get to ride in this old, reconditioned, very plush parlor type car. Overstuffed couch seating with a nice table to set your drink or your cocktail. These cars are all equipped with a full complement of hors d'oeuvres once you get underway. At the other end of the car, they have a fully stocked bar. They'll give you beer, wine, mixed drinks, whichever you choose. That's for an extra fee. I think soda and water is on the house. Now, between the cars, the seating cars, they have a viewing car like this flat car right here. So most of the time you're going to spend out here just kind of looking around to see what the sights are, because it's a beautiful ride through the Verde Valley Canyon.
My wife does.
So we've just left the station here, and I don't know if my voiceover is going to cover up Shu's voice there, but that big pile of slag you see out there, it's 40 feet deep and it covers 40 acres, and it's the leftover tailings from the mining industry that was here years ago when they did a lot of copper mining here. A lot of history here that I'm not going to go into right now.
They've only been going after the gold.
But they are actually working at recovering
currently not doing anything.
Gold and silver and zinc and some of the other byproducts that were left in there that are now valuable enough to go after, I guess. I think Shu says eventually that whole pile will be completely gone.
Where they're getting the gold, the silver, the copper, and the zinc out of there, which they say then will leave a last product will be
we took this ride in the winter time, so not a lot of foliage on the trees, but I've taken it in the early fall, the late fall, the winter, the spring, and it's different every time, and I really enjoy it. I probably enjoy it a lot more than my wife does, but I just love trains. I can ride this thing, I think, once a month.
I lived up
this is this huge pile of slag that we're going by, all the reinforcing girders that they had in place, so you can see it rusted away and falling apart.
I had a Honda 90.
A gentleman by the name of Dave Durbano actually purchased this line without ever seeing it. He purchased it just based on the freight figures. He felt it was a good investment to make, and I think he owned the company for, I think, a couple of years, if I read correctly, before he actually ever came down and set foot on the property. Once he realized, taking the train from one end to the other, what a beautiful piece it was, he decided it was not being used to its best use. And so from that point on, they set about making this a scenic tour, which attracts, I think, over several hundred thousands of tourists a year. It's really a nice ride. I can't emphasize that enough. The people are friendly, very knowledgeable. We'll get along a little further here, and I'll try to point out a few more of the things that we're going to see along the way. You can see they've opened up the hors d'oeuvres now, and I guess it's what I would call heavy hors d'oeuvres. They have chicken wings and finger sandwiches, lots of snacks. We had the pleasure of having my cousin Deedon and her husband Mike along there, living way up in Riverside, Washington State, just south of the Canadian border. Mike was here doing some roping for a week or two, and Deedon came down to join him, and so we had the opportunity to take him on this train ride, which I think they thoroughly enjoyed. The Verde River runs down at the bottom of this canyon. It just wanders for a long ways. You can see the front of the train there. These are a couple of old FP7 locomotives. They were actually built by the Electro-Motive division, which was based in Des Plaines, Illinois. I guess it's Des Plaines, Illinois. You say Illinois without the S. You say Des Plaines with S's. You say Des Moines without the S's. Go figure. Of course, you'll see every kind of cactus in the world there is to see. I think they call that dinosaur rock right there. I guess you can guess why they call that dinosaur rock. This is an old work station that they had here, and years ago they called them section houses or gang houses. You see those green kind of circular objects growing those trees? That's a parasite, but we know it as mistletoe. I always wondered why they sold it in little round balls like that. Well, it grows that way. You can see some more of the river down there. I guess there are some nice trout and other fish in the river. Lots of wildlife. We almost always see an eagle or two along this ride with a lot of other hawks and different things. You can see how close we're coming to the actual canyon wall itself. They're really serious when they tell you to keep your hands and arms and feet inside the train, because you can literally get something pulled off here. I've got my camera on the end of a stick, and I'm kind of taking a chance even now sticking it out that far. I don't have a lot of depth perception, so I'm not real good at things like this. Some more of the Verde River. Take the train, it goes in one direction, and then when you get to Perkinsville, they're going to disconnect the engines, bring it around to the back of the train, and pull it back the other way. So if you're sitting on the right side of the train going to Perkinsville, you're going to see the same thing coming back. That's why most people go out on the flat cars, the viewing cars. The weather's usually very nice out there. The train's not moving that fast, maybe 15 miles an hour. So it's never real windy or anything. Most of those trees you see down there are cottonwood trees. They haven't started to bloom yet. You'll see some trees along the way with some real white bark. Those are eucalyptus trees. See a lot of red rock here, but it's nothing like what you see over in Sedona, over the Slide Rock area of Arizona. It's not that far from here.
So, you have Lincoln on one side?
It's actually some private property down there that has been homesteaded years ago, and along the way I didn't get any pictures of them. I don't believe I did anyways, but there are still a couple of homesteads there, and some of the original descendants, I believe, are living on there. I think they have power now, but I think it gets interrupted a lot. They depend a lot on solar and generator power to keep things going around the house. Kind of a white bark tree there, that'd be a eucalyptus tree. A lot of creosote shrubs there. They're a little hard to identify now, at least for me they are, but they grow a lot of creosote just in the wild here, and that is where we get the creosote that we soak into railroad ties and other things for preserving wood. Not sure how they extract it. I want to come back up this way because on the other side of that canyon there is that dirt road that goes back into those houses, and I understand that that's a public road that anybody is welcome to travel. It's kind of rough, I guess. I'd like to drive up in there and take my drone there someday and get some video of the railroad as it's going by from 150 feet up in the air, maybe. We're coming to the only tunnel that's on the trip, and this tunnel was chiseled out of rock by about 50 Swedes, as they tell me. They were very proficient at building this kind of tunnel work through solid rock. It's not a real long tunnel. We'll see the light at the end of the tunnel here pretty quick. Again, you can see that throughout most of this trip, you're within arm's reach of the rock wall on one side or the other. naturalist is telling us all about these different rock formations that I can't say a lot about right now. And of course, a lot of them have different names because of the way they're shaped. There's some Indian ruins that are way up in the side of the mountain here somewhere. But this is one of the more interesting parts of the trip. Teresa and I have seen this bird twice. They bring it aboard, I think it's the first Monday of the month. So if you had a chance to ride the railroad, you might check with them. But this is a bald eagle. I'm going to let the handler of the bird talk about the bird for now, and I'll just shut up here for a little bit.
Everybody, this is Sonora. Hi, Sonora. Hi, Sonora. Sonora is a female bald eagle that was born in a nest right on the Verde River, all the way down near Fountain Hills, outside of Phoenix. At 8 weeks old, the Africanized bees came in and kind of balled up in her nest, and her parents flew out to get away from them. She jumped out of the nest to get away from the bees. At 8 weeks old, they're not flying yet. Atta girl, shake it up. So she fell down through the tree and broke her right wing in 3 places. So her right wing doesn't make real good lift for her. She doesn't fly well enough for us to put her back in the wild, so she's been kept in captivity. To put her back in the wild with a bad wing, she won't fly enough to go out and forage for food. She just end up starving. For as big as she is, she's only looking at about 8 1/4 pounds. Everything's built real lightweight for flight.
How long do they live?
Here in the deserts, they live to be about 20 years old. Northern climates around 25 years old. Her in captivity where we'll take care of her. No poisons, no poachers, no power lines. She'll live to be into her 40s, double her normal lifespan.
Is she going to be able to have little ones?
No.
No.
Either you train them for one of 2 things. Either you put them into captive breeding, which we pretty much put to the wayside, or you put them into learning how to do education, which is what she's doing today. Instead of being a hunter in the wild, she now works as a teacher, so she'll be a teacher rather than a hunter. If she's having offspring and she's behaving like this, and the offspring witness that, they'll see that as being normal, and then you release them to the wild, then they get into trouble because they saw this happen. So you just have to be careful what they get exposed to.
Wondering about that.
Opens as wide as a man's hand. That's a grown man. When we squeeze down as hard as we can, most of us are making 30 or 40 pounds of pressure. A real big guy might make 80 pounds of pressure. Towel equivalent an eagle when they grab something to kill it. The biologists who study these birds believe it's in the range of 300 pounds of pressure.
Wow. So that's the end.
The nest that they build, the first year will be 6 feet across and 3 feet thick from top to bottom. Before they put new eggs in the nest each year, they renovate. Fresh layers, sticks on top to bury all the bones and carcasses from the year before. Grass and moss is in the middle to put the eggs in to incubate them. Consequently, the nest gets taller and wider every year. By the time a bald eagle's nest is 8 years old, it'll weigh close to 2,000 pounds.
Wow.
About a $10 shot, Deedon.
Take it quick.
All right, took about 6 of them.
Now you can see Cousin Dee Dee got her picture taken with the bald
Let's see
eagle.
what you got.
She seemed a little nervous about it, but I'm glad she got the picture. I think we're getting real close. Yeah, we're up at Perkinsville now. This is kind of the end of line. This is an old ranch, still run by the original family's descendants. Not sure what kind of ranching you do here. Mostly cattle, I would guess. You can see they're bringing the locomotives around. They've unhooked them from the other end. The owner that took the railroad over had these 2 locomotives brought here. They were originally built for the Alaska Railway. They served up there for many years, 1512 and 1510. You can look them up. They're in great shape. You can do a good job. I'm just going to take it down to the other end and hook it to the caboose. I should mention, if you want to take this trip, you can rent the entire caboose. It holds 6 people. I think it's $600, so it'll be $100 a ticket for a 4-hour ride. But you would have your own car attendant, your own narrator and naturalist right there. We haven't done it yet, but when we get hooked up with some other people, we plan on taking that trip with the caboose. I think it'd be a lot of fun. You see some more mistletoe growing in the tree there. The little green stuff there. It really is a parasite. I first saw that when I was out in California. I went fishing with a friend out there, and the guide pointed it out, asked if I knew what it was, and I said no. He said, that's mistletoe. I says, how do you get it down? How do you harvest it? He laughed. He said, most of the time they shoot it down with a shotgun. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what Jim told us. Many different types of rock formations along the way. Some of this is almost like a lava rock that's been pushed up. You can see those prickly pear cactus. I stopped the video there just a second, just so you can see how they can just grow out of nothing. It's just solid rock there, and they've been thriving for a long time because those cactus don't grow that fast. Well, as I stated earlier, I had just gotten this 3-axis gimbal for my GoPro camera. I do like it a lot. It works very well. I had my friend Richard Charette in mind when I made this video because he also has a GoPro. In fact, he's the one that got me involved in a lot of this. There's my cousin Mike there, just into the line for him. We're pulling back into the station now. Of course, they have the proverbial souvenir shop with a lot of cool things in there. You can get a box lunch in there if you want to ride in a coach car. It's a few dollars cheaper, and you can just take your own lunch. Clarkdale's not that far from Jerome. In fact, I like taking the old Highway 89A, and we come in through the back way. It's a very scenic route. I remember riding that road many times when I lived in Flagstaff in the early 60s. Well, I hope you enjoyed the ride. This is the end of the line. We'll find something more interesting in the video. We'll do it again.